All right. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Forward Thinking Founders, where we're talking to founders about their companies, their visions for the future, and how the two collide. Today, I'm very excited to be talking to Michael Yaffe and Ryan Laverty, who are the co-founders of ERIS. Welcome to the show. How's it going?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I know that it's crazy times, but I'm very excited to dive into what you're working on and something that I feel like a lot of people could be using, every day. So I'd love to dive in. What are you working on? What's the product?
Sure. So I guess I'll get started, and Michael can kind of explain, how we got started. So Arist is the first text message learning platform. So what that means is we basically have software where we work with large companies, organizations, nonprofits to create, deploy, and assess text message courses. Text message courses are basically about 1,200 character text delivered to a time that a learner self-selects each day and can cover, an in-depth case study, synopsis, or really just a general introduction to any subject. We will use a lot of text message courses and Arist's platform for things like compliance training, product onboarding, course reinforcement, all the way up to teaching, financial literacy and architectural history.
Yeah, and the way that Arist got started was I used to run a nonprofit called tile.org, which is an international educational nonprofit with over 450 locations in 50 countries. One of those locations was in the conflict zone in Yemen. And I very quickly started realizing that most students in Yemen don't have access to the internet and thus can't take video-based courses. So I spent a few months sort of banging my head against the wall trying to figure out how to deliver more educational content to students in Yemen. And what we very quickly figured out was that most students in Yemen have access to a phone or access to text messages. And if we could figure out a way to deliver educational content via text, we could dramatically increase the accessibility of vital educational materials in places like Yemen. And after we did, a pilot with, after we created the first text message course, we did a pilot with students in the United States. We also started figuring out that text message courses were significantly more effective than video courses for everything from compliance training to course reinforcement to a lot of more corporate focused use cases in the United States. And since we launched the platform, just 5 months ago, we've been able to work with over a dozen Fortune 500 companies and a number of leading universities. So it's been a really fun time so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations on the progress so far. I definitely have a couple of questions in regards to like how it works. So, the only thing that when I think of like traditional courses that you would find on like Udacity or Udemy, you have course creators and they go ahead and they build out their course and then people can sign up for the course, obviously online. For this, what are some examples of the course creators? I know you mentioned you're working with some companies, but can anyone make these? Is it closed for specific companies? How does that work? Then we can go on to the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyone has the ability to build and deploy text message courses. The beauty of it is that because they're so short form and easy to create, whereas it might take you days, weeks, or months to create a traditional, lecture or video course, someone can create a text message course in just a few hours. And so we've had everyone from, small teachers, consultants, small business owners create courses for either their employees or their students, all the way up to Fortune 500 learning teams creating courses for thousands or tens of thousands of people. Typically, we'll see it kind of usually falls on one end or the other of the extreme there. We'll either work with learning designers and chief learning officers to build in their courses where they want to kind of train at scale down to someone who just wants to train a few people. And we think that with the former, we'll usually see a lot more obviously quantity of people taking those courses. But with the latter, with the smaller groups, we'll see a lot more interesting content because they're the ones who really are not afraid to be experimental.
So what's some of the types of ways that learning happens? I guess what are an example of a type of question? Are there like quizzes? Is it like submit pictures? I guess, can you give me an idea of how it's, how the learning occurs and what the interactions are like?
Sure. So the way the learning occurs usually is our model looks like this. A typical course takes place over the course of 5 to 30 days. And every single morning, let's say, you can pick a time in the messaging platform because we integrate with WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger as well. So you pick your messaging platform, you want to receive your course at 8 a.m., for example, and every single day you'll get an image or a GIF a 1,200 character concept or case study explanation. So 1,200 characters is about 2 screen lengths, and then some sort of assessment. And that can be everything from, in our public speaking course, a prompt to go introduce yourself to 3 people and reflect on your experiences, for some compliance focused courses, responding to a bunch of multiple choice questions about how certain pharmaceutical drugs work. So it's a very flexible medium. And because we're based on a lot of behavioral science research from Stanford and UPenn, and a number of other institutions, we're able to create really, really effective learning outcomes. Completion and satisfaction retention rates of over 90%.
So interesting, because I feel like sometimes when you look at just standard courses, I feel like course creators feel like they need to make a lot of content to be received as valuable, and it's a lot of I want to know if they would call it fluff, but I kind of think it's fluff. It has to be long to perceive a lot, so then you charge a lot of money. Whereas I see something like this, I'm like, damn, straight to the meat, and it's on the platform that we care about, which is messaging, which is cool. So a few more questions about the platform. Is this something where someone can go onto your website and then is it a marketplace in that sense, or do you need to know the creator and the creator opts you in to their own course? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a content library on our website of about 15 to 20 courses, and that's kind of on a range of subjects for folks to just go create. But the way that our platform is structured and is optimized is for creators to spin up their own courses in their own white labeled classrooms. And so for someone to go take a class on their classroom, you'd have to send them a link deliberately to your course. However, long-term, we do see this opening up once we've got, a few thousand courses on there, opening up the platform almost more of a marketplace. So you could go on and take a text message course on pretty much any subject you want. And for us, the reason we like this model so much is because right now it allows the creators to be really intimate with the students that they are actually interacting with, and to really hone in on, are you actually, writing for this use case, or your learners actually learning really well, looking at all the analytics of these learners and really honing in, this content is for these learners, versus if it's just a marketplace from the start, everyone's always optimizing for, okay, what's the most, clickbait title kind of course I can make, or how can I sell the most courses right off the bat, which is what we try to avoid.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, a few questions for me personally. So let's say so that there's a time in the last couple of years where I wanted to start a school or a course teaching people how to freelance, and more recently I might do one on podcasting, or how to find startups like an investor before everyone else finds them, which I'm pretty good at because of the podcast. Is this something where I can literally just create the course and then I don't know if this is too in-depth or kind of off-topic, but it's the type of thing where if I wanted to create almost a text message school or something like that, they would sign up however they sign up, and then and then I enroll them, then boom, they're in. And then another question is, well, actually, no, let's do that one, and then I have another one. Yeah, I have a lot of questions. I love education. I think this is a really unique model.
Sure thing. Yeah. So anybody can go to our website. It's just www.arist.co. And sign up to create a classroom and instantly start building courses. It's a really, really seamless process from that point of view. And from a student's perspective, all you have to do is click on a course, plug in your phone number, and then you're automatically enrolled. And so from that perspective, it's our goal is to make the course sign up process as simple and as easy as possible.
And bouncing off that, so far, have you seen the people creating courses charging for it? Is it more of a freemium offer, or I guess are people making money off this now? And if not, what's their angle for using a platform like this?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely depends on the type of creator. If you're thinking learning designers in a corporate environment, they're obviously not charging for courses. They've got teams working on them, and then they're deploying them for free. With individual creators, we have, had folks make money off their courses who are actively selling courses. But again, something that we really, for us, something we really encourage those creators to do is to get the audience members who would be willing to both pay for the courses, but also to try a lot of their new work free, because text machine learning is experimental to a lot of people because it is a brand new thing. A lot of folks, I think that one of the most common questions we get if someone's going to charge for a course is, okay, how much do I charge for it? Can I charge anywhere near a video course? Is it worth that to people? And I think a lot of people's initial inclination is, oh no, because it's less content. But when you focus on the actual outcomes of that content and what the learner can take away after, 10 to 15 days being able to quiz at much higher scores because they remembered a lot more of it versus if I watched a 20-minute video I could have seen on YouTube, hours ago, then it shifts that conversation. And so that's definitely a lot more of what we see.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's all about that value-based pricing. Like, what will you be able to do as an outcome, of going through this? And if that's be able to trade stocks or invest in startups or learn to freelance or whatever, that's not a couple of bucks, maybe a little more, so which is cool. I want to shift a little bit to not like the big vision, but just kind of the short-term future. Is text messaging a wedge for you to like cross the chasm, or do you think you're going to stay as a text message platform for quite a while? And yeah, I'm just curious about like the strategy there.
Sure thing. So the way we see it is content, especially from a learning perspective, it needs to get shorter, right? Most of us don't have attention spans requisite for necessary for watching hours and hours and hours worth of video-based content. We're sitting through hours and hours worth of lectures. So the great thing about text messages is it forces learning designers and professors and teachers to be extremely concise and boil down concepts to their absolute essence. And one of the things that we've been thinking about in terms of our strategy going forward is if we move away from the text message learning medium, we may find ourselves stretching, like adding more and more content and ruining what makes the medium so great. So I think what we're thinking about is we're definitely looking at integrating more and more messaging platforms, right? So letting users take courses over WeChat, Line, Slack, etc., Microsoft Teams as well. That's all on our roadmap for the next few months. But in terms of deviating from our core model, tons and tons of research has gone into ensuring that we've created an optimal text message course model. And so I don't think we're going to shift that anytime soon.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it's probably the right. Like I'm someone that's like, oh, you could do this, you could do that, you could do that. But it's the founder's job to be like, nope, we're doing this. This is what we're focusing on. Okay, so I want to backtrack a little bit. I have a few more questions about the experience for a course creator. Do you call them courses, or the courses, or what do you refer to these like lessons as?
Yeah, courses.
Cool. So does it get detailed to the level where if I'm a course creator and let's say I make a course on how to podcast, very basic hypothetically, and I have 5 students, am I able to see the progress of those students? Is there an interactivity there? And can you just dive into the feedback loops where if like one student is struggling, will I know? How can I help them? Things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the things that we focus on, first I'll get into the progress for the students. So you can see at any time how far through a course someone is, if they've dropped out of the course, if they're still active. You can see the raw data of their responses and the frequency of their responses too. And you also will get high-level analytics both on obviously the completion rates across your courses, but also across the answer accuracy rates. And so when you go into the system, you can build in multiple choice questions, open-ended responses that may or may not have a correct answer. And if they do, you can set a specific correct answer and then see, okay, the student's gotten 89% of their answers correct. They probably understand this material pretty well. As far as the feedback loops, there's typically different levels of e-learning in terms of how deep it gets. And we consider text message learning to be level 2 e-learning, which is that you'll get simple, responses from instructional cues. And so while you can't go into the system and automatically have a conversation back and forth with the learner, that's just not how the system is designed. It's really designed for how can this course model feel intimate while being scalable and one to the masses, right? And so the way that works is when you build in custom responses, when you build in questions, you can build in a custom response that will send to the learner after they've answered. And so a good example of this is, an ethics at work course that we ran with a large team. They had a huge case study of what would you do in this scenario? And then people would send in their responses and it would say, great, thanks for your response. Here's a good explanation of, the kinds of answers we would take and of what we would do in the situation. And for 99% of people, they didn't need to go interact with someone to know if they were right or not, or to know how they should alter that. If you are in the instance of someone needing to interact, then we always tell the educator, leave an email, leave a point of contact, either at the bottom of the text or at the top there. So if they do want to contact you, they have that option.
And yeah, that makes sense. And so you said I'm just wrapping my head around the idea of like doing this through text messages, and the more I think about it, like the more cool it is, because you look at have you guys heard of a company called Community? So they're like
Sure.
this big like text message like communication I don't know exactly like how to explain what it is, but you know what it is. And I kind of thought text messaging was like somewhat like out in the last year. Like I don't know, I don't text that much, etc. But I do have seen like a almost a rise in stuff here. And I don't know. And I think being able to deliver it on Slack or like Messenger or WeChat, like it's interesting. Are you able to include you might have already mentioned this, but could I include like a video within the text, or is it strictly just text? And if it's more than just text, what are some of the media types that I can include?
Sure. So yeah, you can include images and GIFs currently. And we're working on the ability to also include videos and audio files. Currently, you can also just link out to video. So Ryan has actually just posted this on Twitter. It's a phenomenal tweet. And you know the way that we think about it is, over the next few years, the role of an educator is more to be a curator of great content, right? And less to be the creator of content, because there's already so much content out there. We think that text message courses are a really great fit for that medium, right? Because you can curate great videos, curate great articles, and that becomes sort of the fulcrum for your course.
And I'll just add to that too. The most common thing we hear in terms of embedding something like a video is people saying, "Oh, well, can I want to embed 5 audio files and 2 videos and et cetera, et cetera." And a lot of our research, as I'm sure I don't have to tell you, is really around the science of microlearning, and keep that soundbite to 10 minutes or less per day or per interaction. And so people at first are almost taken aback when they see that per day they cannot send more than 1,200 characters. But after they've created a course and their learners taken it and they've gotten that feedback, they kind of understand, because, to the point Michael just made it really well, it's not just being a really good curator, but being a curator of such little content that makes that learning so effective.
It's almost yeah, it's a paradox. Like getting cutting through to the good content. It might take like a fourth of a time or a fifth of the time to go through the course, but you might get like twice the value, and it's such like a shift mentally. One more question, and then I have just my standard wrap up questions. So I usually don't ask this, but I don't know necessarily how to frame it. But you two like have your answers are like extremely succinct, and it seems like you guys have like a very good relation. You're bouncing like question after question. Like you have a great relationship, it seems like. I'd love to hear how you guys got involved and became co-founders, and just to hear that a little bit, because you guys definitely seem in sync. It definitely stands out.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael and I think met as co-founders in the most natural way that you can, which is we were living together at one point, which I think is the ultimate test of two people of working with any team member. We both are students at Babson College and we're part of an entrepreneurship community there. And we got to know one another. And like Michael mentioned, he was doing work with Tile and had this really fascinating idea for being able to teach people through text message. And I, at the time, was working a few different marketing positions. I was running a public speaking training company. So I was no stranger to learning design and to different types of pedagogies. And I just thought it was fascinating. And then we went through this, few-month trial period where we were trying working together. And I think that the two things that we felt really worked well together was obviously, one, complementary skill sets. I was very much, a realist, kind of an operational person. Michael was very much, a visionary and an optimist. And those two things just kind of worked really well together. But I think the other thing is that just kind of the energy around it, we were both so excited by this concept, and at times for the same, but at times for very different reasons. And I think that, but energy and balancing those different types of optimism and realism are what really causes co-founders to kind of sustain and to thrive.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good story to know. And you'll be co-founders leading this thing, to as big as you want to take it. So that kind of leads me to my last question, or my second and last question, which is, what is the big vision here? If you were looking, 10 years out and it got as big as you wanted it to get, what would it look like? And, what features would it have? Things like that.
Sure thing. So our goal is to legitimize text message learning as a meaningful digital learning medium. And my personal ideal is that within the next decade, text message courses become both very, very normalized, right? So, I think we'll be regularly taking 1 or 2 text message courses at a time. And they'll also, in many cases, will become the dominant form of learning for under-resourced locations around the world. Already, for example, we were able to deploy a WhatsApp-based course on coronavirus to the Nakivale refugee camp in Uganda, right? A place where traditional learning and most types of digital learning are simply inaccessible. And we're just thrilled about the potential impact that this can have over the next few decades.
That's awesome. I love that. And for the last question, what is something that the forward-thinking founders community can do to help you make that vision happen? You got all these people listening, and they're probably excited about it, just like I am. How can we help?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are always looking for, again, adopters and believers in text message learning. Like we said before, a lot of people are a bit skeptical until they try it out. And as soon as they try it out, it's almost like you flip the switch and they get it. If anyone just goes to our website, arist.co, they can go on, they can sign up and they can try a course for themselves. Additionally, a lot of what we're doing right now is helping educators through this really difficult time. If anyone knows any schools, any companies that are really having a tough time with shifting digital learning, to go again on the website to contact us, just Ryan and Michael at Arist.co, if they need any help, because for our team, that's always really, really important.
All right. Well, thank you both for coming on. Really cool idea, cool, unique platform, and looking forward to seeing what happens with it. So best of luck moving forward, and thanks again for coming on.
Awesome. Thanks so much.